I'm gonna read you this article here, and we're all gonna disseminate and decide what we want to do with this. Now, I don't like the initial first portion here. Low level. I don't like that. This guy is a retired captain in the United States Marine Corps. ESPN, have some respect. Just call him a staffer. You have to say there's no reason to say low level here and throw some immediate shade at Mr. Stallions. He's done real life reconnaissance, not this fake mumble jumble, alleged sign stealing shenanigans. He's done actual recon as a captain. So a low-level staffer with a military background has emerged as one of the linchpins in the NCAA investigation into Michigan's alleged sign-stealing operations, according to sources telling ESPN this yesterday. I'm telling you can't. What an opening line there from Pete Thamel and Mark Schlabach. What incredible. It was funny because I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody was talking about Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams on the NBA. Like, they are the storytellers of the NBA. And whatever the NBA drama is going to be, they are responsible for, who's going where. And Shams and Woj are responsible for the narrative surrounding specific players and teams because of their reporting, right? That's what was said last week. I'm like, okay, all right. I just, if there's a trade, I retweet it. Outside of that, Shams said this guy was in the bathroom. Like, I don't care about that. It doesn't bother me. Is that where we're at with an opening line like this of this story? Quote, a low-level staffer with a military background has emerged as one of the linchpins in an NCAA investigation into Michigan's alleged sign-stealing operation. That's pretty impressive. Connor Stallions, who is a football analyst with the Wolverines, retired captain of the Marine Corps, and is also the person of interest for the number 2 ranked Michigan Wolverines, who violated an NCAA rule by scouting future opponents in person at games. The NCAA has prohibited such scouting since 1994. Really? But anybody else can go there and scout. You ever been in a college press box before? There is probably, if you have a good team, there's probably anywhere between 10 and 20 different scouts at any particular game. Any particular game is going to have that. Like, as long as you have some talent out there. Like, we'll get 10 scouts at Toledo on for any given game. Like, that's just like they come, they show up. So sources say that this NCAA enforcement staff's level of interest in Stallions is so significant, it sought to access his computer as a part of the investigation. Sources indicated that the process is underway, although it's uncertain what investigators will find. How many sources do we have here? Because I've said it at least 3 times. Attempts made by the 4-letter network to reach Mr. Stallions were not returned. Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel did not return a request seeking comment. This source has told ESPN that the Wolverines have used an elaborate scouting system to steal signals from future opponents since at least 2021. With the ongoing NCAA investigation into Michigan recruiting and head coach Jim Harbaugh potentially facing additional penalties there, this separate investigation could significantly increase his exposure to an additional suspension. In a statement Thursday, Harbaugh denied any knowledge or involvement of the alleged scheme to steal said signs. Harbaugh said he would fully cooperate with the investigation, doesn't condone or tolerate anyone doing anything illegal or against NCAA rules. I don't have any knowledge or information regarding the Michigan football program illegally stealing signals, nor have I directed any staff member or others to participate in off-campus scouting assignments. The allegations are proven to be true. Michigan would have violated NCAA bylaw 11.6.1, which states off-campus in-person of scouting of future opponents in the same season is prohibited. All right, do you care? What are we? Are you worked up over it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you taking it serious? Is this a throwaway to you? I need to know from you, the people, so I know which direction to go next. That's what it is. One texter says, I think everyone should slow down on Michigan until the facts come out, and probably when Harbaugh takes the Bears job. Why would you take the Bears job? Why would you take that job there? With that ownership group right now, they don't even know where they're going to be playing next year. Not a chance. No offensive line. Probably going to need a new quarterback. Absolute dumpster fire of an organization. Beautiful to watch it go down in flames. No, thank you. At least me, if I was advising him. So those are the allegations. That's literally the story. I read that story to you verbatim from ESPN.com. NCAA bylaw 11.1.2.1. A head coach is presumed to have knowledge of what is occurring in his program and therefore can be responsible for the actions of his staff and individuals associated with the program. 100%. I don't believe him one bit here. If there really is a scouting thing going on, there's no way he wouldn't know, right? This isn't like I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. But to be honest with you, I can't say that I don't care because it is against the rules. And the rules are written out, and this isn't something new. Like, this is since 1994, everybody's been allegedly playing by the same rules. So I can't necessarily say that I don't care because it is a rule violation. And this comes after a summer with a rule violation. Now, I've already seen it on ESPN this morning. The Four Letter Network has already had their own, where they do like the side kind of pan with one of their anchors, and they have the big backdrop in the bottom third. It's like Michigan under investigation. They will ride with this, people. Rivalry week going into Michigan State, they are going to talk about this. People are going to galvanize around this with a fresh batch of disrespect. It is going. ESPN's already going to be on it. This gives Paul Feinbaum. They filled an hour of Paul Feinbaum's show at minimum. And so I look at this. That's all. I want you to look at the coverage of this. That's what I want you to do. I don't care if you love it or hate it. If you're happy to see it and you think Jim Harbaugh is a super cheater, watch every second of it. If you're a Michigan fan, you're like, this guy can't do any wrong. I would have stolen the signals for him and put him in his lunch pail with a note. Then that's fine too. What I want you to do is if you know the story, you don't even necessarily have to pay attention to what they're reporting on. But I want you to be keenly aware of how often they'll show this segment or they'll talk about this report on ESPN. Because much like how the current media works today, if it bleeds, it leads. Everybody who's ever worked in news knows that. That's the slogan. If it bleeds, it leads. So if you got a homicide, you've got some sort of assault, some sort of something like that, that's going to be the lead of your news right there, because that's what sells. Then we realized that what will also sell will be extreme coverage one way or another, in which news networks completely punt on the idea of being actual journalists, bend the knee to their corporate partners, and then report news that is so leaning one direction, doesn't matter, left or right, they're both guilty of this, and will create a political frenzy in which news networks will cover everything about one person and not touch anything of another. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to go into further detail. Watch how ESPN will cover this. Whether you agree with Jim Harbaugh or not, whether you care about it or not, because it is a rule violation. So I have to stand by the fact that I just said that because it is a rule violation and it's not a new rule, it's something that's been around, I have to care. Outside of that, literally outside of that, I couldn't give a flying F. I mean, this article by ESPN has almost reached, I need to know the word count. I don't know if I can get a word count on this, but I'd like to. if I could get a word count on this, I would like to compare it to their first initial story of another coach in Michigan who has since been dismissed. Not for the sake of who's worse and who did what. I just want to know. I just want to look at how it's covered. That's all. Because I read about this stuff all the time. And I hear from Michigan State fans that are very upset. And it's like, no, the disrespect thing, right? When's the rivalry gonna? It's never over. It's never gonna be over, right, Coach D? It's fine. It's not Michigan's fault the way that they are covered. You know, I looked at Sandwich Gate, Sandwich Spread, Burger Gate, whatever the hell that was this summer, cheeseburger thing, recruiting violation, saga, and the way that ESPN covered that day after day after day, not only on SportsCenter, but also within Paul Feinbaum's show. And then I was waiting after alleged sexual misconduct, trying to compare apples to oranges here. Because there's no way. I mean, if they did that over cheeseburgers, you got a $90 million coach that just got canned because he's trying to get busy with a sexual assault victim who now we know, right? Now it's all out. So I feel kind of sleazy even saying that. But a vendor to the school who's obviously going after the paycheck, but whatever. I don't even want to go that route before somebody yells at me about, I can't believe you'd say that about Brenda Tracy. Like, I can't believe Brenda Tracy would say the things that she's been saying. And then went to go to her dead friend's house to go wipe that lady's phone. This is why the whole time I said the guy can be an idiot, but I need to see what she said. I need to see it because it makes sense. Now it all makes sense. I'm not even mad at Mel Tucker. Yo, you can't do that. Well, you did. You did. We're all adults here. Act like it. We're all adults. If he wants to have an affair, he can have an affair. What do I care? What's the difference? Well, his wife's estranged. Okay. She live in the same house? Yes, no, maybe so. Maybe she's got boyfriends. We don't know anything about her. I wouldn't be able to pick her out of a lineup. Wouldn't know if she came and slapped me in the face. Let him do his thing. It just so happens it looks bad because this woman, was on campus for a completely separate event, but then we know she's done this before with Mighty Mouse. So the point of me bringing that up is to compare the apples and the oranges of how that was covered by ESPN, the four-letter network, and how this story will be covered. Just keep your eyes peeled. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. Just keep your eyes peeled. It's like, you won't realize it unless it's a red car thing, right? So if you're driving around and you're driving to work today, and I'm like, hey, how many red cars did you see? If this is the first time you and I were discussing, I'll ask Ben. Ben will know. Hey Ben, how long is your commute to work today?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. How many red cars did you see on your way to work today?
That I don't know. It was pretty dark.
If I said I'll give you $1 million per red car,
yeah,
do you think that you would have a better idea?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so tomorrow's a bad example because that's Saturday. So Monday, I'll give you $1 million if you can tell me exactly how many red cars you saw on the way to work.
Okay.
Right? And now you're hyper focused on it.
Right? Of course.
They say the same thing about opportunity. So if you're not out there looking for it, you're gonna miss it. A lot of times it just kicks you right in the junk. And it's like, hey, here's an opportunity, and people are like, oh, well, I wasn't paying attention. Didn't see it. Didn't see the red car. Here's the red car for the day. The red car for the day is how do ESPN, and I'm going to focus on them because a majority of our listeners are going to watch and consume some sort of ESPN programming if you're a sports fan at some point throughout the day. Fox Sports does not have their own branded highlight show. They just have their debate programs. Fox Sports needs a highlight show. I watch the CBS Sports HQ that streams. I think that might be the best. That might be the best morning show out there right now. I'd never even heard of this before. I saw it on Roku because all they do is score, stats, and stories, and they roll through it. It's like old school Sports Center, but it's right there. They show you the highlights. They got a live report from somewhere. They give you a box score. Like, what else do you need? That's what I grew up on. That's what I want. That's why I gravitate to it. I don't need Screaming A. Smith and Paul Feinbaum yelling at me all day. But I will still have ESPN on somewhere. So as ESPN has done really well on television, they've really taken a step back in the sports radio realm. But here we have your red car for the day is if you consume a sports center, or if you're online and you watch or you visit any sort of sports website, I want you to take a look to see where they place the Michigan storyline. Is it on the front page? Is it the lead for one of the television programs? Is it heavily discussed? It's going to be discussed here. It's going to be discussed on other radio shows throughout the state. Doesn't matter what radio station you live to. Like, it's important news. We have to talk about it. How do the national entities cover this? So here's your red car. Michigan scouting scandal. That's our red car. We're going to look for it, keep our eyes peeled, and then what I want you to do is I want you to think back to see how the Tucker saga was covered. Because if you're talking severity, one is much more severe than the other, right? But one will probably get a little bit more run. Is Ryan still on hold, Ben?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was there because I was on a different page outside of the rundown,
Okay.
and I was like, man, that might be from earlier. And then, but no, Ryan, welcome back to the show, brother. How are you?
I'm good. It's almost like there was like a wall, between me and getting on air. I don't know if it was like,
What color?
you were looking for red cars. Like this might have been a blue wall.
Oh, bing bong.
Listen, I mean the blue wall's been working hard this week, keeping me off the air for Michigan State week. They're working harder than the little blue pill works on the Golden Bachelor, But then another story arose,
Right.
and they had to go take care of something else, and then I hear you in the last segment. You start reading the story, and then all of a sudden it's deflection. Let's not talk about the story. Talk about poor Michigan. Oh, my goodness. We keep getting caught breaking rules. Why do people keep yelling at us? Why? Like, what's wrong? It's like you're trying to gaslight reporter. It's like you're just like,
Gaslight?
Why is my girlfriend yelling at me? It's like, why is my girlfriend yelling at me? All I did was go on 3 other dates with other girls this week. Like, she was busy.
I most certainly did not. How dare you throw these allegations out at me on a Friday? It's Feel Good Friday, man. You're coming out with these allegations, but you do raise a good point. You do, because that is exactly the way that I approached this investigation of Michigan. And as I wrote in the rundown, in parentheses, Michigan, is it cheating again? Have they been caught with another rules violation that will stain? And my man Justin Riggs listening to us right now on 96.1 The Game, flagship station out there in GR, already sent me a DM. He's like, look at this, top story. I said, see? Like, thank you. And I appreciate you. Listen, obviously.
The top headline.
The top
when
one.
I went on ESPN.com, the top headline, no picture. It's not the big picture when you go on ESPN, because that spot's taken by the golf tournament happening in Japan at the moment. But it is the top headline. But it's one of these things. If you don't want unfair coverage, stop breaking the rules. Like Harbaugh likes to flirt with these rules.
Oh, he does.
Guess what? I know a little something about a coach flirting when it's unwanted.
Wow, that sounds like it was mutual. Could the rules flirt back with Jim Harbaugh? Did the rules send any sort of text message with Jim Harbaugh that said, hey, come on over here?
It sounds like it's like, hey, there's a little flirt back, then all of a sudden, like, you know what? I don't like this anymore. Don't do this.
If I say that portion, I could get paid. You know what I mean? I could make out on this whole deal. This actually isn't a bad. How much money do you have over there? I will tell you this, from the Michigan standpoint, and let me crank the wheel here that actually lowers the the blue wall down, right? This is like a wall, like a drawbridge, kind of. The drawbridge is up. Like if you're driving around in Charlevoix right now, the bridge that separates Lake Michigan, then the canal that goes into Round Lake, that goes into Lake Charlevoix. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about if you've been up there. Edgewater Inn, shout out to those folks. Acorn Cafe, love that place. But when the drawbridge goes up, big wall.
You know about it.
Exactly. If the drawbridge goes up, it looks like a giant wall. You can't drive into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower that wall. I'm going to crank the thing, and the drawbridge is going to go down so we can get back and forth across, slap hands both ways. If this is true, it is no different than like Bill Self or like Rick Pitino or any other coach that's been caught up in some sort of violation that went, oh, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? There's always that, well, I had no idea. Like, yes, you had to know. And if you didn't know, then there's an issue. There might be a bigger issue if you didn't know what was going on. Because I still want to know what went on with the cybercrimes scandal. Like, whatever happened there with the emails.
Because in the ESPN article, it says they had to take computers. And what was the whole part of the Matt Weiss thing is that, I mean, granted, that was like police that went and took his computers, but like, is that connected somehow? Are these cyber crimes connected?
What we need is someone in IT that can make sure that this stuff doesn't get found out. Like, we need somebody in IT to get in there and say, you know what, we're not going to allow anybody. Like, the minute somebody, like, there's a button you hit, like power and escape and like F4, you hit all three together and your computer just poof, just turns to dust, right? Just wipe it clean.
Listen, IT people have enough work on their hands of dealing with idiots not knowing how to use computers.
Shout out to Albert. That's our guy. We love him. Love him on the show.
Like, they have enough problems. Like, they're trying to tell people how to just exit an internet browser. And they're like, well, now it's on fire. Like, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. That much is for sure. I do, like anything else, I want to read more and see more about like what was going on when this whole thing comes out.
Well,
because
Anthony, if you're reading more, then that's just feeding into your narrative.
Well, no, I'm going to have to.
They're covering us too much. They're covering our scandals too much.
Well, they have to. When you're one of the biggest brands in all of sport. I mean, it's like Manchester United, the Yankees, and Michigan. When you're up there in that upper echelon of greatness and of brand size, the Dallas Cowboys, exactly. Dak Prescott, that poor guy.
Block M hat to the scumbag fan starter pack. Is that what you're saying? Duke basketball, Michigan football, Yankees, Lakers. Are you saying Michigan needs to be added to that group? Because that's what he started insinuating.
I refuse to be baited into this morning at 10 after 7 on a Friday. I refuse to be slandered like this.
What happens when you put the drawbridge down? The little troll comes up and starts crawling across.
I do need to get out. I need to get on Twitter. Freddie was saying something a couple weeks ago, and I sent him a gif of the what were the little trolls with like the pink hair, and I just sent him a gif of that. Oh, he was so mad.